Hello, crypto world. Welcome to the Chart Historian. My name is Justin, and on this channel, I delve deep into crypto charts, exploring chart structures, fractals, and patterns. Happy New Year, everyone. 2026 is officially upon us. This is the silver chart. In this video, I want to talk about the repetitive macro structure that silver and gold have. I would also like to talk about the relationship between silver and Bitcoin, or silver and crypto at large. So let's dive in and get started. So from 1865 to 1980, we can see this first box. That is the structure. It's my belief that this structure since 1980 has been repeating. Okay, so here we are zoomed in a little more. It's still hard to see. Essentially, it starts at a sort of elevated point and it swoops down. Eventually, it goes to a completely new all-time high. In the process, there are several waves. We have a wave here, for instance, that also makes a new all-time high, but it's not the completion of the structure. The completion of the structure is a very steep parabolic move up. Once this completes, the structure starts all over again. So what I'd like to do is I would like to take this first iteration of this structure from 1865 to 1980 and make a fractal of it, and that way we can get a rough idea of what this structure does. So here we are with this structure. Now what we can do is we can see if we can roughly match it to today's timing, height, and depth. I'm going to zoom out a little because 3 days doesn't allow me to see everything. Okay, so I'm now back on a month time frame, and I am going to show you how this structure roughly repeats. Now, the timing, height, and depth is not going to be the same when it repeats. And the reason why that's the case is because when a fractal or a structure repeats, the timing, height, and depth is going to be original to the new iteration. So essentially we have, let's zoom in now. Okay, so here we are on a 3-day candle again. So we have the decline from this peak, and it goes through a series of waves. Now, all these waves aren't exactly lined up with the previous structure's waves, but I've aligned some of the key ones. For instance, this one, which just like in the original structure, it made a new all-time high. However, it was not the end of the structure. The end of the structure, now, I don't think it's going to go this high. I'm just stretching it high so we can see some of the features of this part. Let me zoom out a little more. Okay, so now we're on a week candle. So we can see some of the features a little clearer of this range-bound time. Let me make it even a little larger. That way you can see that there are similarities that take place. So we get this decline, we get this other wave. And like I said, some of these waves, they're not aligned. I think this one is this right here. This part of the chart, it did not move up as aggressive. However, we can see that it does kind of start moving up choppy, and then at a certain point, it starts moving up very, very fast. What we can do is we can focus on this portion of the structure. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so here we are back on a 3-day candle, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this portion of the chart. It's essentially the final kind of phase. So from 1979 to 1980, this peak structure right here. So we're going to copy it on today's chart, and I'm going to show you that we are actually very near the peak. Okay, so here is that portion of the bigger structure. So from 1979 to 1980, as you can see, we've followed the basic profile of this. Now, by the time you see this, this may be further advanced, but it's my belief that we are currently working on this pullback before the final push up to the peak. I think this will peak somewhere in most likely January. So again, we are very close to the final peak, probably days away. So if this is at play, what we should see is a consolidation and at some point a move up that will bring it to the final structure. That's assuming that it continues to play out like this. It could do something different. That is possible, but so far it's followed the rough idea, and I think there's a good chance that it could terminate in something similar to this. Now, it's important to understand that peak structures play out unique many times. A peak structure is very challenging to actually predict exactly how it's going to play out. But I would say that this is a likely possibility, something where we have this consolidation and then a move up, and it's going to be a fast peak, most likely. After this, well, what comes after? Let's go look at the original structure. Okay, so here we are back where the structure begins its decline. Let me remove these boxes. Okay, so this is without the boxes, and as you can see, it has a very precipitous decline, and it's actually a decline that starts off fast and furious, but it eventually takes years before it will probably come to a low. Now, again, timing is going to play out uniquely every single time, but once it gets past this fast decline, this portion will likely continue to slowly decline, and historically that has taken many, many years. The silver chart, it may seem like a fast-moving chart right now, but normally it doesn't move like this. Let's go back to today's chart. So here we are back at today's chart. Now, I don't know where this will peak out. This should not be used as a price target. It could move higher. It could move lower than this. All this is a roadmap, but please don't use it for a price target. So the bigger picture here is silver is not doing anything unusual. This is not a new paradigm that we're in where silver is going to continue to stay elevated like this. This is repeating very closely, actually, what it did in the first box, and it's just the tail end of it. It's where price moves up very fast and very quickly. And also related to this, gold is also likely coming to its peak. And gold, believe it or not, has a repetitive structure. Let me show you. So this is the gold chart. This structure from 1970 to 1976 is a structure that gets repeated on the gold chart. I break this structure up into different boxes. So from A to E is the bull run portion of the structure, and then starting in E and ending in F is the declining part of the structure. So A is a move up, B is a move up, it pulls back, moves back up again, and then has this little kind of peak structure at the end of B. C is another kind of iteration of B where it moves up, pulls back, and then moves back up again and has another little peak structure at the very top. D is the first peak structure of the greater bull run, and then E is where it comes to its peak and then begins its decline, and like I said, F is where the decline terminates. So the structure just really repeats all over again. We can see that it plays out on a much larger scale this time around. Look at F. It's very, very large. So we have been repeating this structure, and I'll show you the structure that we're currently in. So here's A, it's a move up. Here's B, it moves up, pulls back, moves back up again, has that little peak structure. C, same thing, moves up, pulls back, moves back up again, has its little peak structure. Here is D, which is the first peak, and then here is E. What happens in E? It comes to a peak and then begins the decline. After E comes F. We don't know how these structures will play out. We don't know the timing of it, but what we can do, we can copy this original E structure and paste it onto today's chart. Let's do that. So here is that structure, copy and pasted and matched to the rough timing, height, and depth of this E structure. It follows along quite nice until it gets to this. What is happening here? Well, as I was saying, peak structures can be difficult to predict. What I have seen play out before many times is a structure will follow a structure, and then at a certain point it will deviate, and then it will snap back in line and continue following it. I think something like that, now this is speculation, could potentially be at play. But the real question is this the peak or is it not the peak? Will it continue to move up? Well, charts like to follow themes from their recent past. So if we were to grab this peak structure and copy and paste it onto here, let's do that. We could see that today's chart is indeed doing something similar. Now, the thing with recent history fractals is they many times can break, but until that happens, they can serve as pretty decent guides many times. So if this continues to follow along, we potentially are working on the peak right now. and it would eventually begin to decline. And then once that decline really starts shaping up, it may snap back in line with this. Now, like I said, it's speculation. I don't know how this is going to play out. And to be fair, I thought by following this original structure that this was the peak, but no, I got surprised with this big move up. However, it's also not surprising that it's this E structure that we're in where it comes to its peak. So this is a very impressive peak that gold has printed, and I have been humbled by this move up. I thought since it was following this, something like this was not going to happen, but yes, it did. The lesson I learned from this is remain open to this structure playing out in its unique and original way, which all of them do. They play out in a unique and original way. So let's jump back to silver. Okay, so here we are back at the silver chart, and since I was last here, the chart has continued to evolve, and as you can see, it's continuing to follow this pattern. What I want to do now is talk about how crypto and silver interact. We actually have a time back in 2011 where silver and Bitcoin were in a similar situation, not quite exactly the same. Let's go back and take a look at that. Okay, so the silver chart is on top, the Bitcoin chart is on bottom. This is back in 2011 when silver reached above $49 an ounce. This was quite an impressive time in the silver chart's history. As silver begins its parabolic move towards its peak, what is Bitcoin doing? It's just doing nothing. It's chilling. It's allowing silver to be in the limelight. Once silver reaches its peak and begins the decline, well, that's when Bitcoin begins to come to life. As silver stabilizes in its decline, Bitcoin takes its turn in the limelight. Now, I'm not saying Bitcoin is going to go into a new bull run. I think there is a good argument saying that Bitcoin has already peaked, but what we can look forward to is a retrace in Bitcoin, and I believe a retrace in Bitcoin can be very good for altcoins. If this relationship between silver and Bitcoin is at play, what it means for today's chart is that silver would need to first peak, and then in the decline, and as that decline stabilizes, that's when Bitcoin could potentially go into a retrace, and that could also potentially be a bull run for altcoins. Of course, this is speculation, but we do have historical precedent for this relationship between silver and Bitcoin. Let's jump back to today's silver chart. So there you have it. That's how I see the silver chart playing out and how it ties into crypto at large. So one of the important things of this video is to stress that what is taking place is not a new paradigm. It's actually just a cyclical pattern at play, and the way things are coming together may seem like something new, but it's actually not. Now, if this continues to follow this pattern, we are very close to the peak. I can see silver peaking out sometime in January. I could be wrong about that. I don't really know how to predict timing. But in my last video that I made about XRP, where I speculate that we could potentially see a bull run in February, I think this actually plays along with that idea. Of course, again, it's speculation. Well, I hope this video was helpful. If it was, it'd be much appreciated if you hit that thumbs up button. This is important. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is me speculating with historical data. I could be wrong on some of this. If you did enjoy this video and you would like to see more of this type of analysis, I recommend hitting that thumbs up button. I'll continue to follow up on these charts as they continue to develop. And if you would like to join my Discord, I have a Discord that's connected to my Patreon. It's a $5 a month subscription. I'm active there. I'll put a link to my Patreon in the description of this video. I'm so glad you caught this video. I hope you catch my next one. Have a great day, and bye for now.